Hello everyone, my name is Lucas Johnson. Before I get started, I just want to preface that I'm not really a huge reader, but I found this activity very valuable, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing some of the books that you guys chose and hopefully add a few of those to my personal library. The book that I read was by Brene Brown, and this one was called Dare to Lead, Brave Work, Tough Conversations, Whole Hearts. Just a little bit about Brene Brown. She's a research professor at the University of Houston. She heavily studies leadership, courage, and vulnerability. And I think that last word, vulnerability, is super important, and I'll touch on that in a later slide. She's obviously a best-selling author and global speaker, and tying off of that, she works with leaders all across the nation. She's super respected, and I think what makes it important is that all her research is taken a lot of time, and she spent a lot of time, and that's what makes her so credible. And another aspect of that is that it all ties to real world application. So you see a lot of settings that work in the real world. So the intended audience for this book would obviously be school administrators, anyone who is obviously in a current role or upcoming like us. Any educational leader, teachers in a leadership role, maybe you're a teacher leader of a grade level team. Obviously anything that revolves leading a team or an organization. And so it doesn't just have to be in a school setting. Some of the leadership standards that are talked about in the book, and I think they just really correlate to the NELP standards, and they obviously emphasize relational leadership, they promote ethical practice, and they focus on building a strong culture. And I want to talk about those a little bit. She really emphasizes the importance of leading with purpose and clarity. In the book, leaders are encouraged to define, communicate values, which directly supports creating and sustaining a shared school vision. And that one really resonated with me about obviously NELP Standard 1. And then if I'm looking at Standard 2, she just argues that ethical leadership requires courage and authenticity. It's got to be real. So the idea is that these directly support the NELP framework by promoting human-centered, ethical, and effective school leadership. So the book style and readability, this one is very easygoing. It's conversational and it has an engaging tone. So it's not like you're just reading something. It's more of like you're feeling involved and engaged as you read it. It's a mix of research, storytelling, and practical strategies. It's organized into clear sections and concepts. Like I said, it's easy to read, but it's deeply reflective, and I think that can be kind of a challenge. And again, I'll talk about that in a later book. Again, here we go with some of the challenges and criticisms now, as it requires extensive self-reflection. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes you don't always have the time to reflect, especially with educators as busy lives. Reflection isn't always something that you have a ton of time to do, and I think this book requires a little bit of reflection, so you're thinking about what's going on. It's not specifically related to education, so obviously for us that could be difficult, but we're all working towards leadership goals, and I think this book really hammers home leadership principles. Another thing is implementation can take time and require significant effort. I don't know if you guys are like me, but sometimes you want to see the results, and I think that she does a good job of explaining that these things do take time and they take effort, and it's not just going to happen overnight. Some of the key highlights of this book, and there's a couple things I want to talk about here. Obviously, the first one I have here is the importance of vulnerability in leadership. Now, I have vulnerability highlighted for a reason. When I was picking books to read, I was talking with my principal mentor, and she kept talking about Brene Brown. And to be honest, I really didn't have a ton of thought on Brene Brown. I hadn't heard of her a ton. So my principal had me watch one of her TED Talks, and it was all about vulnerability. And I think that was when I started reading these concepts in the book, it just really resonated with me. Things that she talked about in the TED Talk. So that was kind of a cool connection for me. Another one of the highlights would be that it's important to build trust through courage and honesty. Obviously, having those relationships with your peers is super important, and that's how you build that trust. In the title, having tough conversations. Obviously, it's not easy. Not everybody can have a tough conversation. And she just kind of explains how these tough conversations are just meaningful and always driven towards the success that you're trying to promote. Leading with empathy and authenticity. You got to be real as a leader. You have to have those tough conversations and also have empathy where it is needed. Another thing that's important is creating a culture of accountability. That one is a super big highlight of this because sometimes you run into situations where not everybody is accountable, and working towards that culture that you're trying to build, it's important to have high accountability. A couple of reasons why I think you should read this book is it redefines what strong leadership looks like. If you're anything like me, you've been in experiences where you've seen really strong leadership, but you've also seen where it's not as strong. And reading this, it really just redefines what that looks like. It helps leaders build meaningful relationships, which I think is super important to have a relationship with everybody in your building. No matter if it's someone you talk to every day or not, it's important that you always know that you have that positive relationship with them and that you trust them. And this directly impacts the school culture and climate. Obviously, everything we're working towards is just to build the most positive culture and climate possible just for the students, and we're trying to make that the best that we can be. And I think that's really a point that's emphasized in this book. So leadership impacts on school culture. So leaders who model vulnerability build trust. Having an open communication improves staff relationships. Safer environments encourage innovation and risk-taking, and strong culture leads to better student outcomes. I want to talk about a couple of these ones. Safe environments encourage innovation and risk-taking. Not everybody's willing to take a risk because they're worried about failure. And in that book, she talks about how you have to have a safe environment. And when you're in that safe environment, teachers know that they can take risks, and if they fail, they fail. But that's all part of learning and just trying to improve. Lastly, I just want to end with a little bit of personal connection that I had and things that I took away. Leadership requires courage and vulnerability. Again, going back to that TED Talk and then relating it to what I read in the book, it was super important because you're obviously going to have times when you are going to be vulnerable, and you need to have that trust with other members in your building just to push through and talk about things when you need to, especially when you are vulnerable. Going back again, trust is the foundation of effective leadership. You have to have trust with people. Otherwise, that just means for a weak leadership if you don't have that positive trust with those that you surround yourself with. Lastly, after reading the book, I have a better understanding of what it looks like to build trust in others, and I feel more prepared to have tough conversations in the future.